I could feel it hovering in the air like a vulture. Booker Lennox's family had moved to Worcester, and Booker had left it here, the gutless little troublemaker. Not that I really blamed him. You see, Booker had worn the fool's cap for almost 5 years, and that's more than enough for any kid. But that meant that the position of designated victim was open, and everyone was waiting to see who it was going to be. There were some that were too big or too cute, or just plain too mean to worry that they'd be the next designated victim. Heck, they were the ones most interested in selecting Booker's successor. The fool's cap hung invisibly in the air, waiting for someone to do something foolish so that the next designated victim would be chosen and the group could have someone to despise. So, of course, I did something foolish. Like most really silly things, it seemed like a good idea at the time. One of the things my mom and dad taught me when they brought me into the craft was how to pull strings to make good things or bad things happen. YSEE, when people form a bond with other people or places or things, they leave these invisible strings that link them. Not all the strings are the same. Some are bonds of friendship or business or authority. The fool's cap was kind of like this all-purpose string that links all the kids at Horseman Elementary and middle schools and the designated victim. It was just floating around, looking for somebody to attach to. Of course, Cole Peslow, the school bully, and Julia Dunaway, our local queen in training, were out in force trying to help it find its new owner. But hey, no problem, right? I can work my magic and make sure the fool's cap stays well away from me. Finding the cords was easy. You could feel the tension in the air, and the cords were bright and shining. Kids were weighing their options. What if their best bud was chosen? What if that cute girl guy whose attention they were trying to get got picked? Screw that. What if they got chosen? I found one and twisted it, not so much that I thought that Sally Emerson or her best friend Maddie Hyatt would get the fool's cap, just enough to send it well out of my way. I did a little of this every time I felt the cap floating in my general direction. I didn't want to make it land on anyone in particular. I just wanted to avoid it personally, but I must have done something wrong, 'cause every time I twisted a cord, the cap floated closer and closer to my own precious head. Now, I'll admit that I only started learning magic, let alone sorcery. That's what we in the craft call this cord twisting business, a couple of years ago. So maybe I was doing something really wrong. Darn. And it's not like I can ask my mom what I'm doing wrong. Which or not, she's still a parent, and you just do not drag parents into school stuff like this. The cap floated closer. Dang, there was something that I just wasn't getting. All through school, I felt it following me. I stopped twisting cords, figuring that if I made it to the end of school without the fool's cap landing on my head, that I could get home and use one of Dad's all-purpose banishing evil concoctions to get the stink off of me, which would have been the really smart thing to do. But as the school day slowly crept to a close, I could feel the fool's cap getting near, so I was feeling around for a cord when I walked without looking straight into Julia. Oh, help me, God Dunaway, and knocked her down. I tried to make things all right by helping her up, but she wasn't having any of it. As she called me a fool, I could feel the fool's cap settle on my head and attach itself there. When I came to school that morning, I'd just been a normal kid. Now I was everybody's target. I was, for all practical purposes, alone. If you look at it one way, it was really all my own fault, maybe. My best buds, Benny and Tim, were giving me the cold shoulder. Even my own little brother, Trey, was keeping a safe distance from me. The little rat. Not that I can really blame him. No one wants to get too close to the guy wearing the fool's cap. Something might rub off. The teasing started on the bus, and Cole Peslow even got off at my stop to keep giving me trouble. Fortunately, the fool's cap isn't as powerful off school grounds, and I was able to work a way to avoid him. I walked the quarter mile from the bus stop to our house in a state of total disappointment. It was Friday, and instead of 2 days of goofing off and hanging out, the weekend was a choice of either being a prisoner in my own home or making myself a sitting duck for Cole or any other wisest that wants to mess with someone. If these are the best years of my life, senior citizenship is going to be like crawling through broken glass. Mom was still at her job with the local Board of Education, and Dad was driving around doing his civil engineer thing, so I was at least able to avoid the "what happened at school today" question. As part of her witch thing, Mom is heavy into health food, so my after-school snack was a pear instead of a bag of chips, like normal people. I trudged up the stairs to my room and started honing my brooding skills. I had sucked one thumb down to a nub and was starting on the other one when Mom came home and called me down to help with dinner. Yes, make dinner. Mom has very definite ideas about child-raising methods, especially since working for the Board of Education. She sees so many households that belong on Married with Children. One of her rules is that we all eat breakfast and dinner together, and that you either help make it or clean up afterward. And none of that stuff that comes out of a box, either not even prepackaged health food. Mom says that paying that much for flavor cardboard is a sin against common sense. Mom kept looking at me weird. As we were putting the finishing touches on, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Jordan, what is that thing on your head?" That caught me off guard. She could see it. It had that much existence. I mean, I always thought of the fool's cap as a pretty abstract kid thing that adults were out of the loop on. Well, it's what's called the fool's cap. You see, the fool's cap, you got stuck with the fool's cap. She pulled me into a crushing hug. Then she gave me that mad mom look that anyone with half a brain knows not to mess with. Did that good-for-nothing Reese Aubrey trick you into this? Mom is one of the Walthers, and the Walthers have never gotten along with the AUBREs. Dot my heart sword. You know what this is? Of course I do. I went to the same schools that you did, and that stupid cap has been floating around Millbridge since Lincoln was president. I just wish there were some way of getting rid of the silly thing in the first place. That thing ruined poor Marjorie. Hanson before she went off to college, heck. The last time I saw her, she was still a little twitchy. You know how to get rid of it? I love having a mother who's a witch. Well, if that troublemaker Reese Aubrey managed to, Mom, as much as I'd like to blame Reese, I explained how I'd tried to use magic to send the stupid thing as far away from me as I could, and then ran into Julia, the queen in training. You can still get this thing off F, can't you? Mom looked disappointed, both in me and in herself. Sorry, sweetie, but from what you've said, by pushing it away as hard as you did, you wound up all but putting it on your own head and nailing it on. You have to be careful with magic, not that you can go willy-nilly with any of the other arts. Mind you, no, Jordan, you're going to have to find your own way of getting rid of it. I masterfully managed to keep from blaming her barely. Then an idea occurred to me. Booker Lennox wore this thing until his family left for Worcester. So it's a local thing. Maybe if you sent me to a boarding school out of town until it finds a new person to ruin. Jordan, both your father and I are local bureaucrats. We just don't have that kind of money to throw around. How about moving me from Horseman over to Tolbathy on the other side of town? First, I have no real reason to move you, even if I do work for the board. Second, that's at least an extra hour's commute both ways. Do you think that you could really handle that? And lastly, there's a very good chance that it might just follow you. Your name has been linked with it by now, and even if the spiritual form of it lags, the reputation will follow you, bringing the spirit form along in its own good time. Ngug. So what am I gonna do? Mom smiled at me weakly. I'll make the best of it. I've heard tell that back in the 20s. A girl named Hannah Rumney wore the fool's cap from the 5th grade through high school and hid in the library. She read so much that she was the first girl from Millbridge to go to law school. I understand that she was also one of the first women litigators in Massachusetts. I gave Mom a frosty glare. I was expecting some witch wisdom, not mom wisdom. Just sighed and hugged me tighter. You'll just have to find your own way, sweetie. Everything else is just talk. That night, I stayed up in my room instead of seeing what everyone else in town was doing. I stayed because I knew if I showed up, I'd be what everyone else was doing. That's what happens to someone wearing the fool's cap. Of course, I was only wearing the thing because everybody knew that I was wearing it. My eye fell on the long mirror on the inside of my closet door. Well, if I'm stuck in here, I may as well take advantage of it. I locked the door and thought about putting a shield on it. But given the way my luck with magic was going, I'd probably have Mom and Dad knocking every 5 seconds, wanting to know what I was doing. I went into my closet and opened up my super secret hidden stash up in a nook at the top of the closet. In the cardboard box was a small collection of barely used clothes that Mom never missed. I took off my glasses and put in the contact lenses that I'd nagged Mom for and hardly ever wear. I stripped and put on a bra with foam inserts, underwear, and a long silky slip. Then sat down on my bed and brushed my hair as I watched myself in the mirror. Our house is built on a place where energy runs strong through the earth. No, not celebrity-type glamour, but the source of the word glamour is a Scots word for that. Magical energy that the Fae use to weave illusions that are indistinguishable from reality for short periods of time. Glamour is born of sunlight and runs through the earth, giving life to all things. Witches like Mom, Dad, me, and a couple of 100 neighbors can pull glamour up from the ground and run it through our bodies to heal and nurture. We can also run it through our minds and dreams to weave illusions like the Fae do, especially since Mom is a Walther and the Walthers are supposed to have a lot of Fae blood. Dad is from out of the region, but Mom claims that one or more of his female ancestors must have had ties with the Fae Lord somewhere along the line. The house was built to focus the glamour, and Dad enchanted my mirror so that it would keep glamour like a battery dot as I brushed my hair and daydreamed. I tapped into the glamour stored in the mirror. My image in the mirror twitched and changed. My reflection's hair grew long and went from straw-colored to golden. In time, it went from just over the ears to down to my waist. The eyes went from gray to blue and grew large and bright. The nose turned up. The chin narrowed, the cheeks developed bone structure, and the mouth became a cute shape. This skin went from acne-prone to flawless peaches and cream. The neck became as graceful as a swan's, and a generous chest developed under the slip. In time, the slip became a gown of silvery satin and lace, which swept down to the mirror girl's feet with long bell sleeves. The girl in my mirror had gone from a gawky 15-year-old boy to a stunning figure. I watched the mirror girl for a while, and then I felt my own hair grow longer with each stroke of my brush. With each stroke, I felt the mirror girl's transformation repeat on my own body. With 1,000 strokes of the brush, the glamour was complete, and I was beautiful. I put down the brush and twirled around, exulting in the feel of it all. I was a girl, a beautiful girl. I ran my hands over my body and barely managed to restrain a gasp as I caressed my chest. Now, you're probably thinking those breasts are just foam inserts, right? True enough, but the thing about glamour is that it is an illusion, but it isn't an empty illusion like a hologram. As long as you accept the reality of the glamour, whatever illusion the glamour creates is real enough to feel either pleasurable or painful, just like it is now. I touched myself between my legs, and there was nothing there but a mound. The illusion was that good. Sensations could be very real, but penetration wasn't a discussion topic, at least not in this stage of my training. Still, I could make myself feel good by rubbing the mound. Heck, I'm the only one I know who can experience this level of pleasure. As I basked in the afterglow, I mused on how much I loved being a girl like this, and wasn't it a shame that I couldn't go out like this? Hey, wait a minute. Everybody knows that the Fool's Cap is linked to Dan Winters, a 15-year-old boy. What if I went out as a girl like this? Even if I met anyone I knew, they'd see a beautiful woman with absolutely no link to the Fool's Cap. My friends wouldn't recognize me, but most of them were already avoiding me anyway. Maybe it's time for me to make some new friends, not as Dan, but as Jordan. At least I could walk around and not be targeted every 5 minutes, but maintaining. A glamour like this takes concentration, something to keep the image stable. I'd need something to maintain it while I pay attention to other things, like writing a program onto a computer disk. Write, draw, a picture. I can draw. Heck, drawing is both one of the things I enjoy most, without getting myself into trouble. And it's also something that I really do well. I grabbed my pad and pencils and went to work capturing the mirror girl on paper. As I sketched out my basic shape, I giggled at the thought of how Benny Styles, my backstabbing former best friend, would react if a gorgeous woman like the one in the mirror even so much as looked at him for very long. Oh, crap. It suddenly dawned on me that a vision like the one I created would draw every person from 15 to 50 and more than a few females. And she'd be the talk of the town. Everyone would want to know who she was. And at 7,000 people, Millbridge is big enough for a little anonymity, but small enough for people to compare notes. They'd ask me questions, and a witch can't lie. You see, when you can make things what you want them to be by force of will, the world is what you say it is. If you knowingly lie, you confuse the way your will works on the world, and things get all tangled up, so I'll have to tone things down a little, make the hair only shoulder length, and just blonde, not silver. Make the eyes blue and lively, not sparkling sapphires. Make the face cute, but not a goddess, and give her the body of a nice 15-year-old girl, not a supermodel. I purposely left the clothing a blank, so I wouldn't always be running around in the same outfit like a cartoon character. When I was finished, I looked down at my pad and saw a very cute girl, one I wouldn't mind meeting in real life. Then I looked up at the mirror, and there she was, looking back at me. I looked down at myself, and there she was again, and she was me. I walked around my room for a bit, getting the feel of this new form. Not bad at all. Not the ethereal beauty of the one that I had assumed before, but it had the benefit of being actually human, and not an illusion from the Phi. It was more real, and actually a lot more comfortable. Okay, the picture trick works, but I'll need to keep it with me in order for it to work, and I can't always be lugging a picture of myself around. I needed something to keep it in. Picture. Frame. No. Wallet. No. Locket. Yes. A locket. And I had one that I've been meaning to give to Sally Emerson before she decided to go study with Arnie Gannon. Don't ask me why, but there must be more to it than that. I dug out the Book of Rivers, which is sort of a primer for people learning wizardry, which is the craft name for what I'd been doing. I had fair books like the Book of Rivers, which dealt with each of the 5 arts. Come to think of it, I'd better look in the Book of Threads to see what I did wrong in trying to dodge the Cap of Thorns earlier. The thing is, I'm supposed to read a couple of pages out of each of these 5 books every day, but that's homework. Don't I get enough of that from school? I gotta have my own parents piling on extra stuff. I found what I needed, a technique. The term spell is just so overused, don't you think? To fix a glamour. It would take a little work, and I'd have to read in the Book of Marks to find the proper enchantments, but it would work. Between weekend chores, yoga practice, research, inscribing the runes on the locket, creating the glamour again, and Saturday morning cartoons, my Saturday was pretty much booked. But that just meant that I could really look forward to Sunday. I managed to get everything that I needed done. In a house full of witches, not to mention two snoopy younger brothers, that's a lot more easily said than done. I managed to find a stash of Mom's old clothes up in the attic, which didn't look that bad for being a couple of years older than I am. I put together an outfit consisting of a white light denim blouse with mother-of-pearl buttons, a blue denim skirt that reached just below my knees, and a brocade vest that had a cinch in the back so that it would fit right. The outfit really called for a pair of white leather flats to go with it, but a pair of nicely androgynous sneakers did the job. That night, after lights out, I set up the working in my closet so that the light wouldn't get anyone suspicious. I called up the glamour out of my mirror and infused it into the drawing. I saw the picture girl in every detail in all respects, and I breathed a little bit of myself into her. Cradling her in my hands, I moved her from the paper into the locket and shut it to keep her safe. When I snapped out of it, the image of the girl was gone from the page of drawing paper. There was only a swirl of colored pencil lead. I opened the locket, and there she was, smiling at me. The way things have been going, seeing that I pulled this off without it going wrong, was just the kind of boost I needed. Normally, the anticipation of being able to go out as a girl would have kept me up for hours. But doing a working of that magnitude really takes it out of you, and I almost fell asleep on the floor that Sunday morning after church. Yes, we go to church, the local Unitarian church. Like most of the local witches, I made like I was going to my usual Sunday role-playing game up in the college quarter. Of course, I didn't mention that the GM was busy that weekend and the game had been called off. I biked up to the college quarter, locked up my bike 7 ways to Sunday, and looked for a place to change.